Morning. How's everybody doing? What's up, folks? Everybody good? Everybody good out there? We've got Ben Coombs here. He's awesome because he always comes in on Sundays and helps me out. I really appreciate it, Ben. Hope you're well. He's got his live stream tonight, I think. So everybody check out Ben's show later. Who else we got here? Washington, Nashville, all kinds of folks. Frank says that he got an original Plexitone and he ran it into a Bella. And you noticed it does the glassy highs thing a fuzz pedal does when turning down the guitar. Have I noticed that? Not really. I haven't, but for sure it's buffering when it's on and stuff. And maybe it's that. I don't know. It's quite a bright pedal. I mean, it's the only thing about that pedal. It's very dependent on a Bell is a great amp to run it into, actually, because the Bell is so fine tunable as far as the brightness, as well as it's similar to the I think a Plexitone, although I've never actually tried it, but it would probably sound really good into the PT15 channel 1 with the bright switch off. Probably actually be a perfect match because it's sort of dark with the bright switch off. And the Plexitone has lots of bass and glassy highs, which is sort of makes it really sets it apart from a lot of other drive pedals that have a more mid-rangey kind of voice in general. The Plexitone is pretty scooped and all about, which a real, Plexi Marshall can be, for sure. That kind of real glassy highs and then full bottom end and stuff like that. So what else? Who else we got here? We got Jason Wade. Hi, Jason. Glad you were waiting for the show. And we got Oregon here and Modesto, Michigan. Let's see here. Armando says, have I ever try or demo the Friedman Attenuator? STFU Attenuator. How was it? I never did. I didn't even, to be honest, and I talk to Dave all the time, I didn't even know that was something that was out there. I guess I remember it, but it was a few years ago. Generally speaking, I mean, if Dave likes something, it sounds pretty good. I mean, he's got great ears, and so I'm sure it was probably pretty good. Attenuators, I mean, God, the only real pure passive attenuation device that I tried in the last few years, that I was really kind of, thought, okay, that's pretty cool, is the Iron Man 2, the big one. That thing sounds pretty good. The only thing about it is it sounds really good. It changes the sound a little bit, but they all do. I mean, even I've got a power station and it changes the sound a little bit, because of it's everything in line, affects everything. So the power station I find has a little bit different sound than but it's interesting when you're listening to an amp through studio monitors and comparing it, like, okay, let's put the power station in line now and switch it in, and then we'll volume match it to the actual amp in the other room mic. You can really hear the differences then. But if you've got an amp running through a cabinet and it's really, really loud, and then you attenuate it and turn it down and then just turn it up on the power station, like, you don't hear, because there's so many variables at that point with the Fletcher Munson in your ear and all that it's like, if it's pretty close, it sounds good. And the Iron Man is pretty close, and the power station is pretty close. So those volume matched, super analytical, it's a little different in the mids or whatever it's going on. That's only under those circumstances. I mean, if you're using it to attenuate down to a really low volume, you're probably going to love, I mean, my Faustine also sounded great years and years ago. And, Dave's seen all those devices, the Faustine and stuff, over the years. So if you put out an attenuator, I'm sure he's taken into account. He used to love the Faustine. I mean, I can clearly remember the original Tone Merchants in Orange County, and after maybe one of the, it was a concert. I don't know if I was playing. It was one of the NAMM things, I think. But somebody was playing, and we were all there, and Dave was there. And I can remember having one of the, his amps I can remember the fellow from that made the mellow tremo and the Abonai 2 Overdrive. He was there, and it was just Dave and me and a couple other people. Anyway, we were listening to the Faustian, and Dave was like, "It sounds amazing. It sounds exactly like my amp." You know, so that was way back 2010. Anyway, I digress. Attenuators. Haha. Greensboro, North Carolina in the house. And let's see. Who else we got here? Netherlands in the house. It's Jord. Is that how you say that? Jord? I'm sorry, man. Teach me. How will I go about getting a Memory Man delay sound out of the Boss DD500? Well, that's interesting. I mean, I first of all would set it on the analog setting. And then I would, depending on whether you, what style of vibrato you want, you know, if you want the vibrato kind of thing, I mean, it's probably, I don't know if a DD500 will do that really, but it's got mod. So you can get at least a fast mod thing going out of the edge, you know, with a relatively fast rate if you want to. But I would probably, my best luck with doing things like, you know, copying other effects is to put them both in line and then just tweak. Like, for example, I remember doing that with the FX8 from Fractal and hooking up my Memory Man. And I was like, I want to see how I can get how close, because I have an old Memory Man. I want to see how close I can get the delay in the FX8 to the Memory Man. And so I just went back and forth, turning them on and off and trying to tweak the Fractal. And as is typical with Fractal, I was able to get really, really, really close. Like I always say about the Fractal, the more time you spend with it, the better and better it sounds. It's actually like an interesting device that way, where with a lot of digital devices, I can spend a half an hour and 45 minutes and like feel just like, I think I was closer like 45 minutes ago, like, you know, like to getting a sound I liked, and never quite getting there. With the Fractal, it was actually the opposite. It's a deep device, and there's a learning curve and a lot of parameters, but the more time I spend, the better the sound gets. So that's always been my kind of experience with the Fractal stuff. So I ended up making a Memory Man patch for the FX8 that sounded really, really good to me. But anyway, I would do the same thing with the DD500. Find a real Memory Man, hook them both up, and then go back and forth and tweak things like the EQ. Just the thing about a DD500, it's also a deep device with like a lot of, you know, all the controls for EQ and everything, as well as the mod and the dampening of the delay and the lows and the highs. It's like there's all these different parameters that a lot of delays don't have that are pretty cool. One thing I noticed about the DD500 that's a good thing to note about it is that if you use the high and low dampening or whatever they call it, and you turn it down, the more you can turn the feedback all the way up and it still won't oscillate. So it's only when those are set at maybe -1 or 0 that if you turn the feedback all the way up, it'll get regeneration and oscillate like a real analog delay or a tape delay would. And if you use the damping, it kind of, so in other words, if you want to get crazy oscillation and analog like distorted delay effects and stuff like that, maybe leave the dampening close to 0. And then if you want to trim low end and high end, do it with the EQ instead of those controls. Because I used to use those controls to kind of fine tune the tone of the delay. Because I was like, well, what's the difference? I can kind of turn down the bass of the delay. I'm doing it, it's like a knob. It's not, it's a button. But I can turn down the bass and the treble or whatever of the delay using these dampening controls. But then it also affects feedback. So it's just a different thing. But yeah, there's no substitute for A/Bing with the real thing and then dialing it in. I always recommend that for everything. If you're trying to match a digital device to the real deal, be it amp modeler to real amp, or, you know, it's the best way to do it. I'm just going to kind of go back through the chat here and pick a few questions. Modern Vintage has any experience with any private stock PRS guitars? Played one recently. Resonance is unreal. I'm sure they probably use all the best woods and stuff on those guitars. I haven't had a lot of experience with them. I remember a PRS recently at GitCon, though, the last time I was there, and at Warwick, and the PRS brought this really beautiful blue. I think I played it in a video, somebody's video. This fellow Mike, I think, and we traded I played the PRS and he played my signature guitar, and I was like, this guitar is really nice. Like, I remember playing it, and he was playing my guitar, going, "Oh, your guitar is really nice." And we had one of those like mutual, but the PRS felt actually really terrific. It was the first PRS I'd picked up in a long, long time, and it might have been some sort of private stock guitar. I'm just not sure, and I also played actually another PRS on that, which was the Mayor, the Silver Sky, which was really interesting. And my takeaway from that was I remember it's quite radiused, and I also remember the 2 and the 4 position. Hey, I want to show you guys a picture. I got at least pictures of my new Sir Classic that's coming in a couple days. Where is it here? I'm gonna find it. Oh, there it is. There it is. So it's got a roasted 21 fret neck that matches my old Jackson, my old Charvel from the 80s. And John personally did the frets and shaped the neck. So I can't wait, man. So I'm going to go get this tomorrow. Of course, it's backwards, I think, because of it's not a lefty. It's just the camera's backwards. But, and you can see it's like kind of lightly aged candy apple red with a sort of reddish tortoiseshell pickguard. It's got V63 singles and Thornbucker in the bridge, and it's got my favorite Wilkinson bridge on it and stuff. So this thing, I can't wait to try it tomorrow. The only difference from the Jackson, the Charvel, the mid 80s Charvel Jackson neck that we didn't copy was the radius, because it had a straight 16 radius on it. And John said, "Why don't we do a compound? It'll just feel better all the way around, I think." And I said, "All right, let's do that." So it's got the 10 to 14, the standard Sir compound radius on it. But the back shape and everything, it was all done digitized from the old neck, and then the final sanding and everything he did to really hone it in and stuff and get it. So took a while because he's a busy guy, but finally I harped on him enough where he finally finished it like 2 days ago, and I can't wait to play it, man. Yeah, it's gonna be cool. So looking forward to that. And I'm headed out on tour like in a little over a week, and so I think that guitar is going to get a lot of use on tour. I'm bringing 2 of my signature guitars as well as that, the Gil Urin Les Paul and the my MacMall T, actually. Those are going to be my guitars for the tour. 5 guitars, that's all I'm bringing. And then I'll borrow some acoustics. How does an HSS Strat get to a vintage Strat position 4 sound? It's interesting. It's like if the pickup is right, it's largely dependent on the humbucker. I find the Thornbucker split's great. It doesn't sound exactly the same as 2 singles, but it's damn close, man. My classics are, it's like, it depends how picky you are, I guess, but it's like, if you're not, if you've got a real hot pickup in the bridge, or it's got a ceramic magnet or something, but if you've got it might be tough, but if you've got a, Alnico 4 or 5 magnet PIF strength humbucker or whatever, they split pretty well, really, for that position 4 kind of sound. I find it when yeah, and of course it's wired on the switch that when you go to that position, the humbucker splits, and you're only getting the inside coil generally. I think. I guess you could wire it for inside or outside, but I think the inside coil is generally what people do. It'll be probably a little less twangy and a little, because of the inside coil it's not slanted, and it's going to be a little warmer, of course, on the treble strings, and there's other things too. Of course, the single coil pickup's a little bit different construction. Generally speaking, the magnets are the pull pieces, and it's just different. Whereas a humbucker is, magnet is the underneath the bar or whatever that goes underneath the pull pieces. So it's just a different style of pickup, but it gets pretty close. Can I compare the Crazy Tube Circuit Cyclone? Is that the one I have right here? Yeah, it's the phaser, right? With the Wampler Terraform. Well, I haven't side by side compared them, but I do have the Cyclone right here, and it's this is a primarily, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've only had the opportunity to plug this in still just once, but it's just a phaser that does all the different voicings, right? You've got your 90 phaser there, and 45 phaser, 4590. So it's like it's supposed to cop all the different sort of, you know, popular. Does it do the what's the electro harmonics one? I wonder. That's the small stone, right? Small stone, yeah, ST. That must be what that is. I don't know what LT is. I gotta read up on it. Let's see. What time is it over there? It's 6:17 a.m. in Australia, says Russell. Yeah, it's now 11:29 a.m. So that tells me I'm a good solid 11 minutes behind in the chat. 11:29 a.m. here. Hope you guys are okay out there in Australia with the fires and stuff. I know it's rough. I was there just a little over a week ago. Lauren says he's sick. Everybody's sick. Sorry to hear that, Lauren. He's got a stomach bug. Hope you're well. I am well. Everybody's been ill except for me, it seems. Well, I did pick up a little something overseas. Talk about stomach bug. I mean, I think it was probably food. I don't know what it was, but I got a little something that was funking me up for about a week. But I was, it was debilitating. That's for sure. A little weird. That's all I'll say. Casper says, is there a use for tube rack channel strip when recording guitar with reactive load and IRs? You could try it. I mean, you can plug the line output of the reactive load and go into the, you know, either the mic pre, which you're going to have to pad because it's going to be hot, or you go into the line in and see if you like the sound, you know, if it does something to the sound. I don't really think it's necessary. I do run these days I'll tell you what I do is I run just for the hell of it, I run the line out of the PT15 into my Maris 440 pre, and I've got it padded, and it is running into the mic input, and then I'm taking the line out of the Maris and going right into my recording interface. So it's doing a little something. Don't know that it's necessary. I just like the sound of it. It sounds good. It's I don't know how different. I mean, I went back and forth at one point and listened. I mean, anything you plug into is going to have a sound if there's some sort of transformer in it and stuff like that. Give it a try and see if you think it adds to the tone at all. But honestly, you can just take that line right out of the PT and pretty much go straight into a line input on a recording interface. And that's what most people would do. And you'll be fine. If you feel like you want to warm it up or, you know, add some heft or add a little bit of EQ via some sort of Neve thing or something and tweak it, you know, you could do that. Nothing wrong with doing that. Think of it as, I mean, you've already got an IR in there and it's already got the, you know, some sort of mic pre sound baked into the IR. So, when I think about it, the IRs that are in the PT are pretty, or what are you using? You're using reactive load. Yeah. So the IRs in there are Celestion ones, and I know which mic pre's they use, and they're pretty neutral. So by design, you know, they use some pretty neutral mic pre's. So if you want to get a little bit more color or some other sound, you know, the tube thing will do that. Could be great. I mean, shit, you know, when you think about it, like the Van Halen guitar sound, which everybody knows I love. I mean, there was an 1176 in line. That's got a sound. It's got a transformer in it and stuff. And whether or not they used it for very much compression at all is who knows. But, you know, those early records, I mean, they were running through, you know, some sort of UA console, I think, right? And then on 1984, they did that too, the UA console, the tube one and everything. You know, I think a 610 style. Or maybe it was the solid state style strips. He actually showed me one of the strips from the console once that he had one strip left from that console up at 5150, like one of the it was a solid state strip. He goes, yeah, this is all I got left from that board. He showed it to me. You know, when he first built that studio, it was a racquetball court, I think. And they just, you know, it was a 16 track deck. I think 1984 was cut on 16 track. I hope I'm not making that up, but it seems like something that's in my mind that I heard at one point. 16 track, and then I've seen pictures of the console, so I remember that. But anyways, whatever. I digress. Everything in line matters. So you know, just experiment by trying. and see what you think. Like the Beatles, when you think about Revolution or whatever, that was just a distorted, certainly tube mic pre. So maybe you could get some of that added into the. Might sound great to drive up the pre a little bit with a bit of the, bit of grind from that, and like, it's funny recording stuff. I once heard somebody say that the best sound. It was Warren Hewart that does Produce Like a Pro. He said he likes to drive things into distortion a little bit with the pre and then back it off to where you just don't hear it. But where you're not hearing the distortion like of a desk or the pre's and stuff, it's still happening. It's just like happening on a level where you're not here. So he likes to actually make it so that he can hear it and then dial it back a little bit, which is also the way that Eddie Van Halen always said that he liked to dial in stuff to, crank, run it like to the point where it's out of control and then just back it off of here, so kind of interesting. That's where everything seems to sound good, where it's running hot but not too hot. Yeah. Jason says, I hope you had a wonderful Christmas holiday. He's up in the top chat up there. Hey buddy, thanks. I hope you did too. Best wishes to you in the new year. This is the last $5 I'm giving you this year. Cheers, my friend. I can buy another Stumptown Coffee, it's like delicious. I got a high-end coffee today, folks. It's an oat milk latte with 4 shots of Stumptown. Good stuff. Okay. Heidi says, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Ibanez TS9. Well, my number one video is my number one video I've ever made, as far as views go, is the video called How to Use Overdrives and How Not to Use Overdrives. I think it's got about 1.5 million views now. And it's all about how I don't like using a tube screamer with all the knobs on 5. And then I show how I do like to use it, which is output cranked, gain down, somewhere below 9 o'clock, between 0 and 9 o'clock or something. And then the tone usually backed off below half somewhere. And that's the classic kind of Stevie Ray Vaughan thing, I think. Using it really to boost and kind of be a colored boost in front of the amp. So that's the way that I like to use it. But you can check out that video. And let's go down a little bit further here. Gaming Guy says, let's see here. Better 55 cents not only make you a better place for your own family. He's getting deep into some stuff that's not guitar related. I'm not sure what it is. Gaming Guys. But it looks interesting nonetheless. Thoughts on going the digital route to be able to try, say, a Friedman Sur and other high-end amps. Oh, so you mean like using a modeler as and trying that's kind of the argument, I guess, is it's like, well, a lot of people wouldn't get to try these amps, so they can try it in an Axe Effects or something and then get an idea of whether or not they would like the real thing. Yeah, I suppose it's kind of valid. They are kind of like a digital advertisement or something for the real thing. Still not really like playing the real thing though, to me, like not really. I will say that there's been a couple models where I was like, ooh, that's really like pretty damn good. I remember in particular the Helix has a Friedman BE100 model in it. And it's really good. It's like really, really similar to the tone and the feel and the response of the real amp. And I remember that, like playing through it and going like, wow. I had to I should mention a Celestion IR on it to get the response that I recognized as being that sound, but it's really good. It's the Placator model. You have to turn, I think the fat switch is on when you bring up that model in a Helix, and you got to turn that off and then bring the treble and the presence up to 6 or 6.5, maybe back the bass down to 5, 4.5, something like that. And then listen to it and tell me what you think. But it's with a Celestion greenback IR, it's pretty damn great as far as a Marshally sound goes, and it really sounds like that amp. So that one gives you a real good idea, I think, of what the amp actually sounds like. Todd is up in the top chat. Thanks, buddy. He says, I've got several pieces of gear that have buffers on my board and I'm putting together. Can you have too many buffers or too close together? Not really. Not in my experience. I hooked up, I made a video once that you could watch on that too, about buffers and different buffers and how they sound and whether or not you can hear a difference. And at one point, I've hooked up 4 in a row and take a listen and see if you know. Once again, the best thing to do is always experiment and listen to see if you're hearing anything detrimental. But once a signal is low impedance, it doesn't really change. I don't think that much. I mean, it's, you know, it kind of is what it is beyond that. Think about Prince, right? Like all Boss pedals or many guitar players, you know, all, many Boss pedals in a row. And, you know, they'll have 6 Boss pedals on their board. That is 6 buffers all in a row, you know, and everything's fine. So I wouldn't worry about it. Wouldn't worry about it, honestly. That said, listen, see what you hear, you know. Okay, how do I feel about the Universal Audio aux? I really like it. You know, it's interesting. If I'm going for a straight up kind of raw Marshall-y tone and I just want to print that, I will tend to use the reactive load. But if I want some effects and I want to get some stereo stuff going and some room mics and stuff, then I'll generally go with the aux, and I'll use them both that way, like in that kind of, you know. It's nice because I've got those are my 2 devices over here. I've got you can see the edge of the aux there, and then I've got the reactive load sitting right over here. Those are really my 2 load boxes. And then I've got on a third output of my switcher up there is running into the power station from Wyatt. But it's really running through to a speaker cab out in my live room, that old Marshall cab that I bought a while ago with black backs in it. And I can bypass the power station, or I can turn it on if I want to keep the volume down a little bit out in the live room. And so I can either, you know, kind of load and reamp with the power station or not, just run right through to the cab. So I've got the reactive load, the aux, and the real cab ready to go. Yeah. And I'll use them all depending on what, you know, on my record. I mean, on Guitar Nerd, sorry, not on Guitar Nerd, on Pete Thorn 2, there's lots of aux on there. I used it for quite a few things. Remember that song, you know, would probably be almost aux, all the electric guitar. Probably. I'm sure the reactive load is on there a little bit too, but I remember I'd just gotten the aux and I was kind of using it like heavily, and I was enjoying the room mics and some of the effects, and I would print the effects and stuff sometimes. So when I think about that track, that was definitely, you know, I really did a lot of that record. Just some of it's real cabs, which is some of the tones people talk about the most, like Kyushu Blues is all real. All real. I can't. Ugh, God, it's hard for me to remember. But the main guitar tone is my Strat running through my, you know, Selection Blackbacks to the SL68 and stuff. So, anyways, la. What do I think about the Amp 1 from Roman K? What is that? Amp 1. Who's that from? Is that a Thomas Blue thing? Is that the blue guitar? Is that his 4-channel thing that he uses? Pretty cool for what it is. I mean, it's like a 4-channel amp and a little pedal. Big pedal, actually. But I think that's what you're talking about. I heard him play. I jammed with him, and it sounded good. He had like a 112 cab and that's what we used at this jam with Paul Gilbert and Billy Sheehan and stuff over in Chris Buck in Germany last September. Oh, Rivera Power Soak, says Espen. He's wondering if I've ever tried it. Are you talking about the Rock Crusher? Pretty good attenuator that I've done a demo for. It's pretty solid. Yeah. David says it generally works well. The first click is a big jump, like from bypass to the first attenuation position. Sounds like about 8 dB to me or something. So just beware of that. David says, can you explain how relationship between the channel volume and the master volume? What exactly is the channel volume doing? What setting would you use for very low stage volume? What are you talking about? A Helix by any chance, or are you talking about some other piece of gear, David. Just not sure. The master volume, generally speaking, is just, well, it depends if it's post-phase inverter master. It's kind of it's a broad question you ask, so it depends. Like on a Marshall 2203 or 2204 style circuit, the master is actually pre-phase inverter, and if you turn it up, you're actually going to get more power tube phase inverter interaction, and it's going to sound a little ballsier. And as you turn it down, the amp gets that kind of, can be sort of characteristically a little bit thin sounding. So it will affect the tone and stuff, but that's your only option. The gain control or whatever, the other volume control in the amp is going to affect the preamp gain and distortion. So it just depends. It depends on the amplifier and the design. Like on an SL68, the master is a post-phase inverter master volume, the one on the back of the amp. So as you turn it down, it'll just get a little bit less thick, but it really retains the tone quite well because it's coming after the phase inverter tube, which is a big part of which is technically a part of the power amp and really a big part of the distortion of the amplifier. Yeah. What else do we got here? Any new addition to my pedal board? Yeah, actually. I'll just take a picture of it rather than take it off. But I have to really recommend this pedal to you folks. I've got the Super Clean on there right now. I'm not really using it right now, although I love it. But I might take it off and put something else in its place. But it is a great pedal. This one is one that you guys, it's a little bit under the radar pedal, but it's the old EP Pre from Clinch. I might have talked about it last week. It's an Echoplex preamp in a pedal made by Clinch Effects from Australia, small manufacturer. And I put it on my board and I just love it. It is basically the preamp from an Echoplex. And I know Exotic make one, and now Dunlop has one too. I haven't tried either of those, to be honest. The EP Pre from Exotic, I don't know that it's... I think some people have said it's not exactly an Echoplex preamp, although it is a cool boost. They sort of build it as an Echoplex preamp. It's a muffin, blueberry muffin, because why not? 300 people online. Almost. I had 292 and then it says 291. Oh, now 290 because people are getting offended because I'm eating. I'm sorry. Just really quick. Okay. So the deal with the EP Pre is that it really sounds... Anybody ever play through a tape echo like an Echoplex or even an RE201? And even when the delay is not on, it just sounds like, well, that just makes my tone cool. Like, I don't know what it is. This pedal has that effect. And I think I talked about it last week, so I don't want to be redundant, but that is kind of new. I put it on my board. I love it. It just boosts the front end of the amp a little bit. Like, I mean, a couple dB, but it's more what it does to the tone. It's got this broadening effect on the tone that just sounds fatter, and it really kills for the Van Halen thing, if that's what you want to do. It just sounds, it's chewy and fat sounding. It's just got this great, I don't know, just a little bit, it's subtle, but it's cool. It's like kind of like when you get a new pickup and you're like, ooh, this pickup sounds good and it's different, you know, except you can, of course, direct AB it by turning it on and off. I don't know, it's great. If you haven't tried one and if you like Plexi Marshall and you want a little something special and fat, and especially single coils too, because the tone gets a little bit fatter in this really magic kind of way. It's really cool without sounding bloated or anything. Casper is up in the top chat. Thanks, man. He says, thanks for the reply earlier. I just ordered an ESP with an Evertune to try it. Thoughts? And do you think Sir will ever make models with Evertune? You know, it's funny. The Evertune guys approached me, actually, and they asked me if I would like to try one of the bridges. And I absolutely would. I've seen Steve Stevens guitars with them. And if you've seen the video that I did with Steve where he explains and talks about it, I find it very interesting. And I would like to have one guitar with one. I don't know if Sir would do it. I mean, they're a custom shop, so they might make one with it if you custom spec a guitar that had that bridge on it. I can't see why. I mean, you have to pay whatever the price would be, but it's like, I don't want to speak for them. They might say, no, sorry, we can't do it. But I can't see that, you know, that would be the answer. It might be. I don't know. But they would probably do it. you know, just know that you can do a lot of things with Sir. It's just you know, most of the guitars are custom orders, and you can spec one out through a dealer. You know, and the dealers, people tend to think they're guitars that are like, I don't know, maybe they're models or something. They're not. Like most of the time, unless it's the, you know, core line, they call it now, what used to be called Pro Series, but you know, the ones with the set specs or the artist models, everything else is a custom order that the dealer just comes up with. So when you see a, you know, a Sir that's got some wild look or whatever, it was probably spec'd out by a dealer with those specs. It really is a custom shop in the true sense. Okay. Heidi says, thoughts on Ibanez TS9? Already hit that a few minutes ago. Try it when you get it with the volume way up. That's what I say. And also, I like it when the amp's cooking, right? That was the other thing about that video I made. Getting the amp cranked up so the amp's just on the edge of breakup and then hitting it with the pedal. That's where the magic lies with that pedal. Yeah. Yeah. Zwalla the other day. Jord. Am I saying? Sorry, I sound like I've got a tick. I was okay, Pete, just like Zwalla the other day. Did I not say it right? We're having a Netherlands chat right now. Just for a second, I digress. Sorry. Derek from Tone Freak Effects is the Abanai guy. That's right. It's Tommy. Thank you for talking about Derek from Tone Freak. The mellow tremolo, really wonderful sounding tremolo that guy made. Probably still does. Do I still use the Carl Martin Plexitone sometimes? Not for a long time, but it's not because it's not good. It is. I just, with my amps and the stuff I have right now, I just don't kind of have a use for it at the moment. But if I was using a pedal, like if I had to fly somewhere and somebody said, you need a modded Marshall sound, but you're going to have to run through a backline clean amp or something, that's the one that I've picked many times, you know. Definitely. If you watch this video of me playing at the Iridium with Steve Stevens and Sebastian Bach on vocals, and we played Hot for Teacher and stuff, that's what I was using. My original Plexitone through a Badger 30, set pretty clean. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Modern Vintage says, I just saw a Sir post with Mateus's new Classic T. Any plans to do a signature S or T with Sir? Well, I don't know. What do you guys think about this one? For those that haven't seen, where did it go? What do you guys think about that one? Would that be cool? Maybe in a few different finish options. So what this is, for those that joined in, because there's some new folks, we got 310 people online. Nice to have you here, by the way. This is a Sir Classic that I'm picking up tomorrow that I had spec'd out. No, it's not left-handed. It's just backwards because of the camera. And the neck is digitized from my mid-'80s Charvel Jackson. So it's got that great, you know, mid-'80s Charvel neck on it, with the kind of a, so the closest thing that Sir would offer now to that neck is probably the modern elliptical neck, which I find very comfortable actually as well. But, and then so it's a 10 to 14 radius. That's the only difference, because my old Charvel Jackson had a flat 16 radius and great big frets. So this is a 10 to 14, but we used the back shape and everything. And John actually did all the work on this and shaped it and did the frets and everything. So I can't wait to try it. But anyways, how about that guitar? It's got the new bridge on it, the Wilkinson V63s. I can't get it to stay. I'm too lazy to turn on the lock thing. It's got a Thornbucker in the bridge, V63 single coils. Yeah, the new the new bridge and locking tuner. It's got the hybrid headstock. I'm not 100% sold on what I picked for the headstock, which is hybrid with a finished face and an unfinished shelf. And I don't know. I've got to see the guitar in person and live with it for a minute. I'm just not 100% sure. It does look pretty cool, but I just don't know. We'll see. Long story short, I know I could, if I wanted to, and they've done this before, is cut off the shelf. They can do that very easily and then just leave it sand it, leave it like the standard Sir headstock, and I would be fine with that. So we'll see. I might do that. Then, you know, it'll be that thing where I was like, ooh, it sounded better before when it had the shelf on it. Had a little more tone. Then I'll always regret it. So I'll just live with it for a few months. Okay. Who else we got here? Anyways, let me know what you think about that, because who knows? If that guitar is super cool, maybe that'll become a... Jim says, great Sir Classic you're picking up. Looks amazing. The exciting thing about the guitar to me is that it's got a neck they've never offered. So it's got a shape that would make it a really unique signature, you know, kind of, you know, and it's got a story behind it. It's the guitar I actually grew up playing when I was 16, 17 years old with that great Charvel. It was my first guitar that I really fell in love with, and I still have. You know, I've had that guitar for, that's crazy, but it's been 30 years or more, you know. So I think that makes it kind of a cool story, and it would be a unique guitar from Sir, where, you know, a real true, like, kind of hot rod Strat with that old Charvel style neck on it. Yeah. You want one in Lake Placid blue and tortoiseshell guard? Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Alan says Lake Placid blue with a tortoiseshell guard would be pretty sharp on that guitar. You're right. That would be nice. So we'll see. Digitized recreation of a neck. Nice, says True Tech. Yeah, they can go through and, you know, John digitizes every little detail about the neck shape and stuff, and then they can. And Big Fret says JG. Yes, it's got the great big, you know, humongo 6100s, and I asked John to leave them huge, you know, dress them, just kiss them with the file, you know, so that they'd stay really, really big, nice, big and round frets. And because that's the neck that I grew up on. So I just think that you know, that would be the way to go. So somebody says it's got boring inlays. I don't know, they're pearl. I left that up to John. He said, what do you want to do for inlays? You want to do black ones? He said, I think they might disappear in the neck because it's roasted. You can't tell, actually, the neck from these pictures, because okay, here's a back shot, but it's getting kind of, the neck is, oh yeah, you can see that. It's bird's eye like crazy, roasted bird's eye. So there's a lot going on the neck. And he said, what do you want to do for inlays? And I said, I don't know, dude. I'm not, there's the back with the you know, tortoiseshell back plate on it and stuff, and light aging and all that. I left the inlays up to him, and he went pearl. So we'll see. Think of it as a prototype. I'll live with it for a bit and see. You know, what else would you use for inlays? I don't know. I mean, if you use black, they're going to be pretty dark. Talk amongst yourselves. When you roast maple, it's tough. I don't know. It makes it super stable, though, of course. Any experience with the Slate virtual mics? No, but I want one. I got to get one of those things. You know, they make a microphone. It's like a condenser mic that's supposedly quite neutral, and then you use their digital emulations of different mics to make it sound like a 251 or like a U47 or like an SM57 or all the different mics. I really want to try it. There's another company that does it as well, and I've been interested in their Townsend Labs, I think, and it's supposed to be excellent from what I hear. But I'm friends with Steven, so I should hit him up and see if I can somehow get one to demo or something, try it out. Okay. Okay, Richard says the Marshall JVM amps have a channel gain and channel volume as well as a master volume. I never really understood the relationship between the three controls. I think you're okay. So the deal is, much like on a PT15, you've got a gain control and then a kind of a master control for that channel, and then you've got an overall master volume on the amp. And the thing here is you set the overall volume with that final master, and that controls your up-down volume of the entire amplifier. The gain on each channel controls kind of the preamp gain distortion amount. The volume on each channel controls the volume of that particular channel. It's kind of like that's a master, and then the other master is the final master. Does that make sense? The goal being that you'd set up your channels so that they're all at the distortion level you want via the preamp gain, the volume you want via the volume control in each channel, and then finally the overall volume of the amplifier using that final master. I hope that makes sense. Now, if you turn up the channel volume, kind of the master on each channel, or if you turn up the overall master volume and you push it, either of those really hard, it's both of those are going to drive the power section of the amp into some degree of distortion eventually. So it's kind of I just sort of look at it as view the channel masters as that's your balancing of the channels and also going to fatten up the tone kind of the louder you turn those. And then the overall volume is set via that final control. I hope that makes sense. Just ordered your Pete Thorn standard, says Captain. Sexy 90. You're extra sexy now with the new guitar. It's going to be fun. Thank you for getting the guitar. And you're up in the top chat up there. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Can you talk about how the guitar is chambered? Hugs from Norway. To be honest, I have no idea. I should look in the airport sometime. It's not like I don't fly with it all the time and stick it to the thing. But yeah, they do a little bit of chambering on the bodies on them. Now, here's the story on that. I didn't know. I had no idea. And then I found out. Because the deal is that mahogany now, like genuine mahogany, is heavy. It's all heavy. It's just life. So the very, very, very rare pieces of it that you can find that are light, I mean, it's rare. So the genuine stuff is heavy, and the guitar would end up being kind of, I'm just not a fan of like 10-pound guitars. So anyways, from the beginning, they were doing their standard, which is what they do on their mahogany guitars. They chamber them somehow. And that was the very first one that I ever got. My original, it's here somewhere, sitting back there. Yeah. And I loved it. And and then they were doing it, and I discovered later on after the model came out and everything, and they're like, oh, of course we chamber them. We chamber all our mahogany guitars. And I was like, okay, I guess it sounds great. So I don't really care. That's how that happened. So I had no clue. And that's the truth. So I don't know the pattern they use or anything. I guess I could ask them and find out, but I don't think it's too crazy. I think it's just for a little bit of weight relief. It's just the nature of mahogany. Yeah. People think sometimes that I know more than I do. I think. I've got them fooled. Fooled. Let's see. Moving down. Have I tried a new Victory, the Copper? I haven't. What amp is that? Last Victory stuff I tried was, of course, the 3 pedals, the Kraken, and the Sheriff, and the other one. Can't remember the name of the other one. Do I like the Timmy Overdrive pedal? I like Timmy, and I like Timmy. I like Timmy style drives. I do. They have this real natural kind of. Speaking of, of that, like for instance, the one in the Helix sounds really good to me. And if nobody's ever tried a Timmy, you could try the one in the Helix. Gives you a good idea of kind of what it sounds like. So there's another modeling thing I can think of where it's like, oh, you might not have had a chance to try the real thing, but if you want to know what it sounds like and you've got access to a Helix, give it a try. But yeah, they've got that great. I think of that pedal as a really good edge of breakup kind of Americana sort of drive sound. Let's see. Ampy, Ampy drive. I'm going to move down to the bottom of the chat to see what you guys are talking about. Does that new guitar have a treble bleed circuit in it? Yeah, it'll have the standard Sir cap resistor thing. Yeah. Holdsworth used chambered guitars. Warm tone. You should do a Sir factory tour video, says Daniel. That would be epic. I would love to. They're sometimes a little reluctant to do that because they don't want, like it's like proprietary blah blah, stuff like that. So I've asked them in the past, but it's not been a thing that that they've. Excuse me. So rude. Eating in public. It's my blueberry muffin. Come on. The one thing I did say was we could do it, and I would let them edit it. And then it would be cool, hopefully. But you're right. That is a good idea. Maybe I'll ask them to do that again. Maybe I could collaborate because I'm pretty tight with the new artist guy there. Is a terrific cat named Justin. and maybe I could collaborate with him on it and have him shoot it, and then maybe have him edit it and put it on my channel. I would love to do that, and then it could be approved by all those guys. I think that would be fun. Good idea, Daniel. I'll think about that. I need some new. In case you guys, I should mention, this brings me to a good segue. I've been completely absent from YouTube for about a month, other than doing, a few of the live streams. And I'll get back into it this week. I've got some videos coming. I'm going to make a video for the Iridium this week, as well as I've got this red sound full range cabinet back here that I'm going to do, and a few other things that I've got to get to. I mean, I'm way behind, but there's a Keeley looper here I should really do as well. A couple other things I need to do. Yeah, it's just a matter of I've been so slammed, man. I mean, with the clinics, and then I got back, and we go straight into the holidays and stuff, and I've got this tour coming up that I've been learning like 30 songs for. And I'm a little overwhelmed. So anyways, YouTube is taking a back seat. And I kind of feel like I needed it anyway. Like I need a little break sometimes from, not get burned out and stuff like that. I'm definitely ready now to start making stuff again, but I do have this tour learning. So as I go on tour, I'm going to come up with a way to get some YouTube videos done while I'm out there. I feel like RJ does, he does really nice videos while he's on tour and stuff, and put some effort in and make some nice stuff about life on the road and stuff like that. So why not do that? Some maybe about, certainly about my setup that I'll be using. I'll be using the PT-15 on the road for the first time, kind of quite a small rig, just PT-15 and one cab. But with my main pedal board, 5 guitars. So I'll do a little rig rundown video and show some tones and stuff. The last time I did that, folks seemed to like that, I guess. So, and then maybe some other things like some lesson videos or something. Come up with some stuff I can do while I'm out there. And then, of course, when I get back to the regular programming scheduled of making videos and stuff. But I guess I just needed a little pause for a minute. And I didn't, wasn't really intentional or planned. What's going on if you dime the channel volume and set the master low, says Wyatt? Well, now you're just going to be driving, like it's at some point in the circuit that the channel masters happen. Okay, like on my PT-15, and I'm not saying your Marshall is like this, but this is another question about masters versus gains. You've got a gain, a master on the channel, and then an overall master volume. On the PT-15, the gain is, of course, setting the preamp gain, and then the channel master is setting the overall level of that channel, but it's also the send out to the effects loop. So that's going to control how hard that channel is driving into your effects if you've got anything plugged into the loop. The final master for the overall amplifier is the effects return volume, really. So it comes post the return. So that's going to, set the return level. So there's other factors at play. So if you're using any effects in the loop, if you were to drive that channel volume super hard, you might be sending out to your effect and clipping it, so just be aware of that. Plug something with a meter, with a level meter into the loop and look for that. And if you see the level meter go up when you turn up the channel master, which I think you probably will, that's the send out to the effects. And then the overall channel volume is probably going to be, way down the chain, like I say, post effects loop, I would assume, but I could be wrong. It might be. That could also be a send out to the effects. It depends how they design the amp. You're saying if you set, and you're saying, I'm guessing this wouldn't result in very much power tube distortion if you set the overall master really low. You're correct. Yeah, it's that overall master has to generally come. You can't have a master unless it's an attenuator of some sort, which almost no amps have. A few do, but you can't have an overall master that's post the power amp tubes, generally speaking. So it's going to be pre the power amp. It's going to be before the power amp. And if you turn it down, no matter what, no matter how hard you drive those channel volumes, it won't result in power tube distortion. Now, with the PT-100, there is a thing that happens because it's got gains and masters on every channel and then an overall return level in the back, right? When you turn up the channel masters, it loads the EQ differently. I don't know exactly what that means, but the amp does sound a little bit different. And John describes it to me as it loads the EQ differently. And I do like to drive those masters up in somewhere between 2.5 to 4 or 5 range, as opposed to keeping them really low, below 3 or something all the way across the board. It sounds different to me when I turn up the masters, on the PT-100. So it's just something to be aware of. Adam's up in the top chat. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. You're too kind. Oh, and you've got the Townsend modeling mic and UAD plugins. Great flexibility and integration with the UAD kit. What is this tour you're talking about? Peace, man, and ask Mr. Sir to put multi-voltage on the PT15. Not sure the technical reasons. They prefer to not have the switchable voltage for some reason with the power transformer on the amp. I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I've asked him, and he doesn't believe in it for whatever reason on that particular amp. But anyway, the tour that I'm doing is in the UK with some friends. They're the folks that do the Brit Floyd show, and that's not what I'm doing. But it's the same organization that does that. And if anybody's seen Brit Floyd, it's like, you know, theater kind of size shows where they do, it's like Pink Floyd show basically, with full lights and video and the whole 9 yards. And it's a really big show. I saw it at the Greek here in LA, and I was really blown away. It was a great night of music. So that's what got me hipped to these people. It started out originally as it's described to me was the Australian Pink Floyd was the group, and they were doing a tour in England, and it was 4 guys I think from Australia, and they were excellent. And the folks in England that now kind of have taken over the business aspect, they saw it. One fellow in particular, you know, man that runs the company, he saw it and he said, "You guys are amazing. I want to take you on and do something with you." And so he helped grow it into a much bit like out of clubs into a much bigger production. And at some point they had a business split, and the Australian Pink Floyd went one way, and then the other group, that because this had evolved into more of a big thing, other group became Brit Floyd. And I don't know the specifics of that, but anyways, they've continued on, and it's growing and growing every year. They've been doing it for about 10 years now. Well, they've now got a couple other shows that they're doing, and one of them is called the Classic Rock Show. So they asked me if I would come play guitar, and it's all kinds of, you know, classic rock extravaganza hits, big numbers, which I can't divulge. But anyway, they do a really great job, and they're pretty amazing at covering all this different material. And it's a pretty big production, and it's theater shows, so it's theaters all over the, you know, it'll be UK, Wales, you know, Britain and Scotland and all those fun places. And if you want to check it out, it's, yeah, Classic Rock Show. It'll be all over. And I think I got to look. I've been so focused on the music, I haven't even really honed in on how many dates it is, but it's January, February. That'll be over there doing that. So it's going to be fun. It's great for my playing is the other thing. I've had to really, like, after I get off of doing this, I'm going to be going straight to work because I've now, it's crunch time, and I've got still some songs to learn, and I got to hone up on some of it because it's challenging, and it's great for my playing because it's, you know, I'm playing all this stuff and so many different, you know, epic guitar players and their solos and stuff, and not to mention rhythm parts that are like really, it's I'm going to school right now, learning all this stuff. So it feels good. That's the other reason why YouTube I haven't been focusing on as much, but I feel like it's a good thing because it's like I have to play sometimes. YouTube for me becomes about which is amazing, but many times it's me doing the videos for pedals and things, and I'm composing, you know, I'm just writing music all the time, which is awesome. Like I love producing and writing music, and that's obviously probably my number one love actually, but it's good sometimes to get your ass kicked and learn some material and play, as opposed to just writing stuff and creating all the time. So that's the mode I'm in right now, where I'm learning all this material, kind of like I did a little while ago with the Queen stuff when I was doing those shows. I try and strike that balance of like, I don't want to do too much of any one thing. Like, I don't want to become just a YouTuber, you know, I want to go out and play shows still. And so when the opportunity came up to do this tour and go out and play some music, it was like, I should probably go do that. I could stay here and just do the YouTube thing full on, but then I just sit in this chair and kind of write music, and I want to get out and play live. I want to get on stage and get out and play. And the touring that I've done the nature of the touring that I've done over the last few years, playing in Japan a lot, playing in France. I love that too. It's my favorite. I mean, I love going overseas and doing these gigs, but actually it's not as many gigs as you would do if you were on a US gig, like a US tour. When you're in the US, you play 3-4 nights a week, relentlessly touring on a bus all over the place, and you just end up playing a lot of shows. And so it's good for your chops and good for your playing. When I go over to Japan, it's more like a lot of rehearsal, or 3 weeks at least of rehearsal, generally a bunch of rehearsal. And then we do a couple shows, and then there's 4 or 5 days off. And then we do a couple shows, and then there's 3 days off. And then we do a couple shows. And so it'll be like 2 shows, 3 shows a week tops. You might go for 2 or 3 months and only play 14 or 15 shows, something like that in that time. So this is an opportunity for me to go and do, a ton of gigs. And I'm excited about that because it's just good for my playing. I'm going to plug in my keyboard battery very low. It's the only thing with the wireless stuff, it's like where it like runs out of battery. All of a sudden your mouse is out of juice. Anyways, that was my tirade on that. So I can't wait to get out there and play some gigs. And yes, the YouTube output suffers and stuff like that a little bit, but I think that's okay. We have 388 people online. It's good. It makes me, I want to be the guy that tours still and does sessions and then does YouTube too, and that's I still have that desire. Will I be at NAMM, says Aaron. He's in the top chat. Thanks, Aaron, for doing that. I won't be at NAMM because of the tour. So this will be 1 year that I'm missing it, which is unfortunate. I'm sad that I'm not going to be there. Actually, there's a lot of opportunities and things that I've missed not being at the show this year, but maybe that's a good thing. I've gone every year for probably at least the last 10 years. So I'm going to take one off this year. Maybe I'll go to Summer NAMM instead. I never do that. So maybe in the summer, I'll just for fun book a trip out there. I'd like to go hang in Nashville for a few days and see some friends out there and stuff. And I'll be at next year's, I'm sure, unless there's another tour that prevents me. But yeah, okay, I'm going to go down to the bottom here. You mentioned last week about doing your tour. I hope you're working towards that goal. Yes, that's JG. Yeah. Have you tried an Eventide H9, 10, 949, or H3000 for the detune effect, says Robin. I have. It's funny, I actually just made a patch in my H9 using the 910, 949 algorithm yesterday. So, yeah, I have a detune patch, the standard micro pitch thing set up in my H9 for sure. And Michael Thompson, he uses it for his modulated delay. So I made a modulated delay patch using the kind of the H3000 style detune thing too. How busy are you with making pedal demos for people? Well, on that note, I am generally backed up and stuff. That's JD Analog. You've got a pedal that you'd like to send to me very soon for me to YouTube demo it. I'll be back. I'd be happy to check it out and stuff. Of course, my standard thing is I always have to listen to it first and make sure I think it's for me, like that I can get a good sound out of it for what my, and as long as I like it and stuff, and it's like, then we can move forward with making a video of it. March will be the, if that works for you. And there's an email contact form on my website, so you can always hit me up, but that would be the soonest. Let's see, there's a question here about the couple drives. Mabecca says, Origin Effects Revival Drive Compact or Wampler Tumnus Deluxe into Effects Return or Power Amp. I wouldn't use the Tumnus for that, but the Origin Effects Revival Drive work pretty good for that. It's more of a preamp than the other one. The Tumnus is really an overdrive. I'm not a fan of the drive pedal into the return of an amp thing. I want the amp, with an amp, you've got a tube preamp in it, a high voltage affair with some tone shaping going on there, and it's a big part of the sound of the amp. I mean, the majority of the shaping of the tone of the amplifier happens in that preamp. So when I see people run overdrives just into power amps, it's an overdrive pedal is in my mind, a pretty poor replacement for a full-on high voltage tube preamp. That said, if you get good results, it's great. But, you're basically turning your tube amp into a solid state front end and not a very juicy one at that. You know, a 9-volt solid state front end going into a tube power amp is, I mean, when you think about it, you know, it's like people used to kind of rail against solid state amps, but that's what you're doing. Is that tube preamp is a huge part of the sound. So the Revival Drive, though, is a really good, you know, especially the original one that's got the ghosting in it and all that. The full size Revival Drive is really a preamp. It's a solid state preamp, but it's a really good one. I think John's here somewhere in the house. John Sir. Is he here? He is here. He says, Andrew, you should contact customer service. He's asking about some customer service, talking about some customer service issue. Hi, John. Are you still here? I hope you're in the house. I was showing everybody the beautiful neck that you shaped for me. And I'll see you tomorrow. Let's go out and have lunch. Yeah. What's up, John? What's up? How are you today on this Sunday? How many people we got here? We got 387 people in the house. That's not bad. Pretty good. Oh, so I see. We're talking about the multi-voltage issues, and he's saying CE issues, like multi-voltage on the amplifier. That's the thing. Is you know, I guess regulations in different countries, maybe. Is that what you mean, John, when it comes to power transformers on amplifiers and switchable voltage? Fill us in. In the meantime, Daniel says he really loved the Amps in the Zone videos, reveals how popular amps behave and how they're often used. Have plans to make more of these? I'd love to. Yeah, I want to do the AC30 because I still have a good one here, an old one. So I'd love to do that. Lonnie says, wow, just watched your Clinch pre-demo. You looked way different a few years ago. Did I have long hair? It's probably 10 years ago that I made that video. Hey, we all change. Yeah. Rhett Shull does awesome on the road videos. I should check out some of his videos too. I'll copy from everybody. Who else we got in here in the chat? Wyatt Willis says he loves some Gary Moore. Absolutely, I love Gary too. Passed away on his birthday in 2011. Great guitar player, and he definitely had more than just one bag of tricks doing the blues thing, the rock thing. I loved his rock thing, you know, around the quarters of power and all that stuff. And I also liked him, you know, the Thin Lizzy, obviously. But then, you know, the blues thing, he made a great career choice later on, didn't he, in the 90s? Any plans on bringing your how to make a recording clinic? It's my sort of like small rig, huge tones, I've been calling it lately, but to Ireland, or make it available online, says Richard. You know, I'd love to go to Ireland. I've been doing them in conjunction with SIR, so it's sort of dependent on there being a SIR dealer there that would have me, somebody that would help host it. So is there a SIR dealer in Ireland? If there is somebody you can think of, let them know you'd like to see me over there. And I would love to do it next year at some point. Okay. Moving down in the chat here, I'll see if maybe John answered that question, if he's still here. John, are you still here gracing us with your presence? I don't see that he responded, but I could just be missing it. A couple of people up in the top chat. Steve Rayburn is up there, as well as Rich Monk says, be happy to check it out. Canadian accent unlocked. Thanks, Rich, for doing the top chat. You can take the kid out of Canada, but you'll never get the Canada out of the kid. Steve Rayburn is in the top chat. He says, hey, Pete, have you tried running a chorus or modulation pedal after the IR output of the PT15 to emulate a stereo rig? I have, and it's awesome. I mean, you can just take the line out straight into line out. You can take the line out, like straight into your effects and then split the stereo, It's just don't even give it a second thought, Just give her. Yeah, you can do that. I tried it recently. Here's a neat thing that you can do for anybody with a PT15. And I guess you could do this with a reactive load too. If you take the line out with the speaker simulation on it, out of the back, and you run that into your effects, and then take the stereo left, right out of your effects, run that into a splitter cable, one of those 2-to-1 that is like 2 female 1/4 inch, right, for the left, right. Plug in the outputs of the effects in that splitter, and then it'll go to a male 1/8, and you can plug that into the aux input on the front of the PT15, and then in your headphones, you'll actually have stereo effects that you can mix in. It works perfectly. There's no weirdness, phasing stuff, nothing. I tried it and it works great. So that's one way to go. But you could also just take the line out and stereo effects, left, right, split that into, a DI or whatever you want to go to, and run that straight to the house. And it's, you could go to a mixer too if you want to do it in parallel. So split out to take the line out of the amp into a little mixer, run your effects off the mixer, using the sends on the mixer to say a reverb and delay or whatever you want. Take the stereo out to the mixer and send that to the PA. So there's a number of different ways you can use it. And it'll all work really well. What kind of treatment do I have in my room? These are panels, that one back there, that one back there, that one there, and there's also one up on the roof and other ones around that you can't see in here. It's just all stuff I had made for me by a guy named Keita when Keita Ishibashi was the guy's name. And it would be a long time back in about 2012 that I had these panels made, and he custom made them all. And they really helped to dial the room in and kind of tame reflections and stuff. Yep. Yeah, so custom made. Lawrence Petros Design had to take off. He's got tone art to build. That sounds good. Have an awesome day and stay safe on this holiday, he says. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Brett Holman's in the house. He made it this week, he says. Nice to see you. Do I have any Helix presets available for download? Not yet. I'd like to make some for Helix Marketplace or whatever it's called. Just once again, it's the time. Yeah. Cameron says, how many other national and renowned artists would even do this and actually ask you to send product? Pete, oh, are you talking about the review the fellow was asking me to do? I'd be happy to do it. That's what I do. If somebody wants to make a nice pedal and then have me review it on my channel, I'm more to, or make one of my videos, I'm more than happy to do it. As long as I like it. That's the only thing. I just want to make sure it's honest. If I don't like it, then I can't say this thing's great with a straight face. I would never do that. Chuck says, can I plug into my mic pre to digital audio workstation and then use an amp modeler in day like Guitar Rig 5? I don't understand that. Can I plug into my mic pre to DAW and then use amp modeler in, I think you're saying in DAW. It probably just changed DAW today. Like Guitar Rig 5. I've given up on the ISO box for now. Yeah. Yeah, you can totally do that. Yeah, use an amp modeler in your DAW, sure. If you're a UAD guy, you can use it in line as well on the input, but you're talking about using it in the DAW. And yeah, Guitar Rig 5, that's exactly what you would do with that. It's just like a modeling effect that you would use in the DAW. I used Guitar Rig going back to 2004. I mean, it was probably like Guitar Rig 2 or something, or 1. I don't even remember, but I used the cabinet modeling in it, a line out from an amp. So sort of like the reactive load didn't exist back then. I was probably using a hot plate or something. But if you loaded down an amp and then took a line out and then ran it into your interface and then just used Guitar Rig for only speaker simulation, I was doing that way back then. I've got recordings of it I made back then. Did I forget my glasses? No, but it's interesting. I can actually read this week, and it's so dependent on my contacts. I digress here, but my contacts, for those that have never heard of this, are Toric Lenses, Toric, and Toric Lenses are for people with astigmatism as well as nearsightedness. The Toric thing, it's like a weighted thing where it rotates on your eye, and it has to sit at just almost like a focus on a camera, where it sits at just the right angle, and then things come into focus, and that's fixing the astigmatism part of my vision. Now, they don't always sit just right. And then it's out of focus. And then the reading glasses help me. But for whatever reason, right now, I can read the chat perfectly. And I hadn't even thought about it. And you just brought it up. It's like, and it just means that lens is sitting just right on my eye today because I'm lucky. It's such a pain in the ass, I tell you. Yeah. But today it's working. So bless the vision gods. Okay. I should probably move down to the bottom of the chat. Before I do that, Brendan says, I'm getting a custom built Tele style guitar from a local luthier for my 40th next year. Congratulations. And considering a P90 for the neck. Am I committing on mortal sin, or will the guitar gods allow it? Hey, I love P90s in the neck. Do your thing, man. Get a Tele pickup like a regular one, and it's gonna be great. Get a Tele bridge, base plate like traditional Tele pickup and all that, and then a P90 in the neck. It'll be cool. Have I jammed with Steven Seagal yet? No, I haven't had the pleasure. Isn't he in Russia? Let's see here. So would you put the EP pre before the MXR Echoplex, then run that into the front of an amp? I don't really know if I would put it in front of the delay or after the delay. I would probably put it after. I don't know if that's what happens in an Echoplex or not. Probably not. But I don't know. Anybody know in an Echoplex whether the preamp comes first or last before the actual echo circuit? I have no idea. I would right now. I have it after. Come to think of it, I mean, I actually have an Echoplex pedal in loop 8, I think, of my pedal board, and then loop 9 is the EP pre. So it's running after. Sounds great. Last thing in the chain, and it's hitting the front end of the amp like a kind of like a clean boost right at the end. Except it's not clean. It's a little got its own thing. Let's see. Would I rather be a bee or a wasp? This is getting silly. Let's see. End of the chat now. Let's see what's going on down here. Richard says, do I play any other instruments besides guitar and bass? No, I started on violin. And I can't really play anymore. But I started on it, and I did play it for 6 or 7 years, so I could pick it up and learn again. I've often thought about, getting my old violin out. I still have it, my first one I learned on, and, getting it set up and new strings on it. The last time I went to do that, I opened up the case and the bow was destroyed. Like all the horsehair had dried out or something, and it was horsehair everywhere in the case. And I thought, oh, never mind that. And I closed it, did up the latches, and that was probably 10 years ago. But I would love to I'd love to learn piano. If I ever get a bigger place, I have a dream of buying an old upright and taking lessons from some nice old lady or something, learning how to play piano. I'd love to be able to sit down at the piano and just play recreationally, It's something I've always wanted to do. But violin, I don't have this burning desire to do that with violin. I'm more interested in learning piano, to be honest. Like, it seems like a more fun thing to just be able to, kind of like acoustic guitar, to play solo by itself. Have I ever plugged into a Ren & Cuff Super Russian? No, is that like a Big Muff clone? I would assume it's probably like the green Big Muff, right? Probably pretty good. Closing in on 400 peeps. 386. How do we get more people online? 388. Let's get above 400 for a minute here on the old chat. I don't know how. So phone your friends. Tell them to sign on. When you go on tour, great show, says Rocamp, by the way. He says, when you go on tour, do you supply a guitar tech or do they supply a guitar tech or bring your own? Generally, the tour has one, but occasionally I've been asked who I would like to be my tech, and I've been able to hire them myself. That's nice. But more often than not these days, it's somebody that's just kind of provided. And I've tried to actually over the years become a little bit more self-sufficient and rely less on, because I used to be really picky. I was a picky bastard, you know. And now I try to be just like, yeah, I'm good with whatever. I'm okay. Like little things like the bridge on my guitar staying in tune really well. That's all in the effort to limit the, you know, my reliance on others and stuff, and just be a little bit more, because the business, like it or not, I mean, you know, my friends that go to do some of the gigs, big pop stars and stuff that they're playing with in China, for instance, these are stadium shows. I mean, in arenas to stadiums, 17 or 15,000 people on up to 40,000 people, because there's so many people in China, you know, and they'll fly over there and they'll do 2 gigs or something, a rehearsal and a gig, and then fly back home. And those gigs, I don't know that there's like a lot of techs, and you generally, it's just backline rental gear. And I've got a friend who goes as far as to not even bring a guitar. He just backlines guitars because he's like, I don't want to deal with it on airports on 14-hour flights and stuff going to. So this is the world that we live in now. You know, you're playing stadiums and using backline with huge stars. That's a pretty extreme, but you know, this is kind of the way that it's gone a little bit more, at least for me too. I mean, it's like, you know, the Queen thing. I mean, that I was the Ultimate Queen celebration, 1 guitar, EX8 was what I was using, and no tech, you know, and they're big shows. I mean, it's like theaters. So it's like, I got to be completely self-sufficient on that gig. So maybe it's just the type of gigs I'm doing. I don't know. I see a lot of my friends like kind of dealing with the same thing, where it's like, the more you can be, you know. Now, when I go to Japan, I've got amazing tech, you know, over there, and I've always had the same one. He's been fantastic. Anyways, a very dead horse is in the top chat. He says he's got the Kraken preamp, but sometimes he'd like to have the option to use a Synergy and using the 4 cable too. Is there something that would allow both? I'm sure there is. I mean, it's like, at that point, wouldn't you just use the Syn 2 maybe and come up with a preamp that's similar to your Kraken? I don't know about combining 2 of those. It sounds too complicated to me, to be honest. Just I'm sure there's a way you could do it using a switching system, but you would probably have to incorporate something like an RJM or a GCX or something like that to use both the preamps. That would be an easier way to do it, I would think. If I was you, I would probably, if you know, you get Kraken, I would probably get like the Angle, you know, and then a different Synergy preamp and use the Syn 2 or something with your amp to switch out, because then you could have all, you know, you have a lot of options. Just in my opinion, might get too complicated. Okay, what else we got going here? John's still here. It's nice to have you here, John. Where are we going for lunch tomorrow? Can we go for pizza at that place? At least I think he's still here. 1 cup of coffee is never enough. Well, this was 4 shots. It's still there. It's delicious. Have I ever played a Jackson Pro Dinky, says Guitar Hack. Only back in the day, the original ones. I remember when the Dinky came out. I liked it. I think I had one, actually. I did. I had I think I had this one that had lightning bolts on it. It's so stupid, man. The neck on that guitar is, God, when I think about some of the stupid stuff that I did, God, it was so dumb. It had oh man, what did I do? I switched out the neck on that guitar for another one, like for an ebony board or something. And then that neck went bad and I steamed it to try and get it to, and the fingerboard fell off of it. If I told you some of the stupid stuff I did back in the day. Anyway, it made me think about a guitar I haven't thought about in a long time. Brought back a painful memory. No. What else we got here? I had to stop using contacts and now have glasses. Kind of a bummer, says Pamela. You know, if you get a good, there's a guy here in LA I could recommend to anybody that needs a good ophthalmologist. That it's so dependent on the person you go to. You know, obviously I got a wonky right eye. Everybody knows that. And it's, the vision's terrible in it. And he was able to get me to 20/40, I think, to see 20/40 out of this eye with correction, which has never been. It's always like 20/80, 20/60, and he got me to 20/40 just by dialing in my prescription. He didn't want to give up. Most people are like, well, that eye's let's just forget about that because it's my weaker eye, and this, which is why it's lazy and all that. So I don't really see out of this eye that well. When both my eyes are open, you'll notice it goes straight when I close this one because that's when my brain wakes it up. But as soon as I open my left one, it goes, oh, it's okay. It's time to go to sleep now. But anyways, if in other words, most people give up on it because they're like, oh, forget about it because your left eye is the main one, your main vision anyway. And this one, your brain doesn't really use it when both eyes are open. So people will just forget about it. But this guy was like, no, we're going to get it. It's like a challenge to him. And he dialed it in, man. And I got 20/40 vision with now I don't know where it's at now because that was like 10 years ago. And I've since seen a few other people, but I'd like to go back to him. He's just expensive. Have you ever tried or demoed Kingsley preamp pedals? I haven't. Spice Crop says, Happy New Year. Thanks, man. Happy New Year to you too. What's the difference between Sir and Tom Anderson guitars? That's an interesting question. I recently when I was in where was I? I was in Indonesia. And I played a bunch of Andersons because they had Sir and Anderson at the store I was at there. And the Andersons feel really good. They're a little bit different feel. I picked up one for a while that had it was like the Kirk Hammett guitar that he played around And Justice for All or something, I think, with that white and black kind of finish on it. Basswood body. I hadn't played a basswood guitar for a while. That was, the body was all basswood, no maple top stuff going on or anything like that. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember this sound kind of from the, the Ibanez's and the Andersons and stuff they used that wood for in the 80s. It sounded kind of cool. It has this warmth to it, kind of an interesting kind of knock to the sound. But the guitars feel a little different. All the ones I picked up, generally speaking, maybe had a little slimmer necks than Sir's and a little bit of a V thing going on. And it is a distinct kind of, it's a feel difference. There's a different feel to them, and they're not exactly the same as a Sir, I don't think. Both really quality guitars, but just a different, they're not totally interchangeable, I don't think, or anything like that at all. Arthur says, hope all is kicking ass. Thanks, man. If I had to pick a lower to mid cost amp to use, what would it be? It depends. I mean, on what you're going for. Practice amp, Fender, Marshall, what vibe? Let me know, and then I'll dial it in. My response to that. There's a few options, I would say. Surprised to see how far Sir has pulled out in front of Tom Anderson, says Sean. Well, they're a different company, and Sir's growing at a different. I don't know that it's like Tom. I think John would tell you he'd be he's good friends with him. He's maybe kind of intentionally kept his shop small, and maybe that's just the way he likes to live his life. I think he has 14 or 15 employees or something, and he's just kind of cruised like that from the beginning. And with Sir, there was a gradual kind of, it's still not a huge company, but it's not a small company either. And there was a gradual expansion and more dealers and things. So it's just a different kind of thing. John would probably be the first to tell you, I don't know if Tom ever wanted to do that, So they both make terrific guitars, and it's just a slightly different path. And there's a lot of mutual respect there between those guys. I know that. They're friends from way back. Yeah. We should all beg John to share something new at NAMM for this year. Well, he's not going to do that, but he does have a few things up his sleeve. He does. Okay. Well, what else have we got here? What else have we got here? Let's see. Let's see. Looking back through the chat, I'm going down to kind of the bottom here. And is there much difference between the two-note studio and aux? I think that they're both kind of similar in many ways. But there is differences. The two notes, of course. Okay, the main difference is going to be, to me, that the aux is maybe a little bit more effects centric with the, the plate reverb and the modulation effects, the flange and all that kind of stuff going on. They don't, and the two notes, correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't have any of that stuff going on. What they do have is their store, the two notes boutique, and you can go ahead and buy a million cabs and buy them from producers and stuff. So they're a little bit different because you can't do that on the aux. You're able to get some room sounds and stuff using the two notes, but with the aux, it's just like there's a little. I do know that the loads are really similar, so the effect of the units on your amp tone is going to be similar, I think. But yeah, it just depends. Do you want all those cab options, or do you want maybe the UA? It's hard to beat the room mic thing, and the built-in delay sounds great. The 1176 and all that stuff that's built in is really cool. I think Rhett's here. What's up, man? How are you? I got to go watch some of your videos that you do on the road because I need some ideas. I'm about to head out and do this tour, and so people were saying that you make these great videos from the road, so I'm going to go watch a few. And don't worry, I won't copy, even though I said I would earlier. No, I want to come up with some stuff that I can do on the road. That's some interesting content I can do while I'm out there. I filmed a bunch while I was away on my trip, and so one thing I intend to do is for the whole Asia clinic. I just hit like 7 or 8 countries all over Asia and ended up in Australia. And I'm going to edit together a little video. A lot of it's iPhone footage and stuff, but hopefully it'll be somewhat interesting from just kind of a travel diary from all the clinics. And yeah. All right. Let's see. Have I tried any of the Sovtech amps? Yeah, back in the day, the MiG 50 and 60, which sounded some of them pretty good. I mean, a MiG 50 was basically a Bassman. It was just a 4-input Bassman, I think, circuit. The 60 was EL34s and supposed to be more martially. I don't remember it, but I remember the 50. Evidently, the rat's nests on the inside and really poorly made, but you could probably have somebody go through if you found one for $100 somewhere in the trash and go through and rebuild it. You might have a nice, sort of old school 59 Bassman circuit. Yeah. Vincent wants to know if he's got a bunch of pedals and amps. Should I put all the pedals on one board to use with all amps, or build different boards, use different pedals for each amp? Thinking one master board. I mean, it's nice to have one big pedal board that's got everything you kind of need on it, I guess. Yeah, rather than, but I don't know. I mean, to be honest, it's like I've got both. I've got like a little board, and then I've got my bigger board. I've got a few different boards that I use now, so for different things. But yeah, I would have your one kind of put together your one killer pedal board that probably with a pedal switcher, and put everything you think you need on there. Adam Cave Project says Merry Christmas. He's up in the top chat. Hey man, thanks. I appreciate that. Happy New Year to you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. And I really appreciate you being here. Max Invent says he went to Guitar Traders in Japan to try a 78 Les Paul, but got shut down. Cool stuff, but not very helpful to me. But it's all good. Found some other good music stores. I really like the store. I've heard some, customer service, where folks say they're just not helpful and they're mean. I have not had that experience, but when I go in there, people know that I play with Tyoshi and stuff, and that's like, so when you walk in, you know what I mean? It's like I don't know if I get special treatment or not. They don't really talk to me very much. They just say hi, because the folks that work in there, keep in mind, there's just not a lot of English going on there at all. So I've found them to be very nice though, and helpful. But I can't say that would be, the case for you get, they might be, stores in Japan are interesting. It's like there is a little, like, they don't like photos that much. Guitar Traders never had a problem with me taking pictures, but like Hyper Guitar in Tokyo, which is incredible, in Shinjuku, they do not like pictures. And I never understood that, because it's just like, well, we're going to take these and we're going to advertise these guitars up on the, you were going to put them up on Instagram or something. People are going to go, oh my God, look at that custom color. There's a Lake Placid Blue 65 Strat. I want it. And they'll probably maybe help sell the guitar. They don't like it. It's an interesting thing. It's a little more like that, like going into an art gallery or something when you go in this some of those stores. So I'm sorry it wasn't the best experience, but generally speaking, I've found them to be really friendly for me. That's all I know, and it is a really great store. Anyways, they don't, just keep in mind, there's also when you say they weren't helpful, there is most of the folks that work in Guitar Trade are, like I say, there's no English going on really. So that could be the barrier, where maybe they just don't understand, and there's like an anxiety, on all parties, like, and then it can turn into just kind of like a not such a fun experience customer service wise or whatever, where maybe they just don't even understand what you mean. You could be asking if you can plug something in, and they might be like, can I take this out on loan or something? They don't understand. You know what I mean? There's just that thing with sometimes the lack of, lost in translation thing, and it can make it not so fun, I guess. Nobody's fault, really. Anyways, any cool Christmas presents? I was given Alan Hines' new CD, says Alan, another Alan. Cool Christmas presents. I got some good new travel accessories for my upcoming trip, and some gift certificates that I've got to spend and stuff like that. How do I set up pickup height on my Strats? Lower for more air or factory settings? Generally speaking, the bridge pickup is relatively up there, but I've got a slant on all three, so the bass side's down a little bit, and the middle one is down enough that it's not affecting where the pick goes, because I hate that. You feel the pick hitting the pole pieces. And the neck is fairly low, with the bass side just above the pick guard, the other side maybe that high above the pick guard. It's relatively low. So sort of a progressive, lowering of the pickups all the way from the bridge down is how I generally do it. But there's no hard and fast rule. It depends on the pickups you got in your guitar and stuff. Yeah, generally speaking. Yeah. So, let's see here. What else we got here? What would you say the best use is for the Badger 35? Edge of breakup, kind of that magic roll the volume up and down thing, is really nice. I think that the amp sort of lives in that zone. It'll do heavier distortion, and it'll also do cleaner, but I love it for that kind of kind of Americana sort of, you think Peter Stroud with Sheryl Crow kind of tones, that's what I love. And I think John kind of designed it for that, that real cool, like, it's a great, kind of that, country rock sort of, that sort of thing, Americana, hit it with a drive for gain, or roll it down to 8 to get clean, that kind of thing on the guitar. That's where I love it. And it's a double power 18, it's just a more robust, kind of louder 18. So that's what I like it for, the main thing that I like it for. Let's see. Where am I working on New Year's Eve? I don't have a gig on New Year's Eve. I'll be working here all day learning material for the tour, and then I'll be just going out and having some fun in my hometown, basically. Keeping it super. I don't like to make big plans for New Year's Eve. It's fun to have a gig, actually, but I don't have a gig this year. So I like to just kind of, go out and, be low key. If there's a pub or something and it's close, I'll do that, hang out, toast in the new year, go back home. I live in Pasadena as well. So there's the Rose Bowl parade. So if you can get up early enough, you can go down to the, Colorado Boulevard and check that out. And it's kind of a crazy scene in Pasadena, because they close down the street, I think at midnight or maybe at 2 a.m. There's no more traffic allowed on the street. 1 a.m. to, I'm not sure exactly what time, because then it's closed for the Rose Bowl. So people just camp out on Colorado Boulevard all night on New Year's Eve night and hang out and get ready for the parade in the morning. They sleep out there overnight. I can't believe it. It's bonkers, but it is kind of fun to walk down there and see what's going on. More 5-minute lessons, please. Love them, says Chris. I would like to do that. I will maybe while I'm on the road. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. I'll make some 5-minute lessons from the hotel room. What else we got here? What else we got here? Oh, somebody else is up there in the top chat. Thank you guys so much. It's Dennis. He says, got a 2019 Les Paul Special with P90s. Need a noise gate for the first time in my life. Any suggestions in the $200 range? I've had good luck with the TC one, the Sentry. I got it here on my desk right now. It works pretty good, man. There's the Boss noise suppressor. There's the MXR Smart Gate is really good, I think, for the money. You don't need. They all kind of work the same. I hate gates, generally speaking, but yeah, every now and then you need one, right? And the Smart Gate, always had good luck with that. It's a one knob thing with a couple switches. It's very easy to use. Dave Friedman likes that one as well, so it'd be hard to go wrong with that, I would say. I have a little Moore thing that's on my pedal board that's just in loop 5 of my amp, and it works good. It's a one knob, very simple, and I only use it for the real high gain stuff so that it's not like going into my amp, because I have a Klon style drive, the Archer, and it makes some hiss going into the channel 3 on my PT15 amp. So I find it just tames the hiss of the Archer, and I just set it real conservatively so that when I roll the volume down on the guitar all the way off, then the gate kicks in, and so it keeps my high gain channel quiet. And I don't mind a gate when it's set conservatively like that, and not like, I don't like the, when I play and then it shuts off. I play, mute, shuts off. I don't like that sound. So I leave it so that even if the guitar's up, it'll still feed back normally and everything. And then when I roll the volume down to maybe 2, now it's going to start shutting off when I stop playing. And if I roll the guitar all the way off, it shuts all the way off. That's how I use it. So, but I hope that's some good suggestions, Dennis. Thanks for doing the chat thing, live chat, top chat situation. It's about 12:55. When did I start? 11:15. So I'll go till 10 after 1 or something like that. Another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. If I had $2,000 to buy my first really nice amp, would it be something like a Kemper or Axe 3 or a tube amp? Well, it really depends on what you're doing, You're not far off from the price of a PT15. Just saying. And it all depends. Do you want a combo? Do you want a head and cabinet? How versatile? What style of music do you play? Ask yourself how many tones you need. And the main thing that I always recommend to people when it comes to modelers like the Kemper and the Axe Effects and stuff, and the Helix and then amplifiers is, are you the type of person that can use a ton of different sounds and really needs them for what you do, and B, likes to tweak things? If you're the type of person that sort of thrives on simplicity a little bit more, it could be a better thing to just roll with a simple, a nice amp, and go with that, I think. But if you love the idea of, if you really like to get in there and you're kind of techie, it can be fun to, to have the modeling route and go that way. Okay. Let's see here. I love when people don't talk to me in guitar stores, says my knees hurt. I think you're not being facetious. I think you're saying you're actually true. Or you're actually being honest about it. When people don't talk to you, like when you can just look around and not be bothered. Yeah. I don't really like the salesy thing either. I mean, occasionally, it's okay but I like to be left alone, generally speaking. So how good is my Japanese? Says Deja Blue. I'm still studying. I forget a lot, and then I go there and I learn, I try and learn more. Like for a month leading up to going there to spend some time, I'll try and work on it and gain some new phrases and stuff. So I'd love to spend more time there than rather than less time. So if I could go and actually just get immersed in it and really learn, I'd love to get to that point where I felt like I was having full conversational, that would be great, I think. So what else have we got here? Let's see. Some moderation going on in the chat. Thanks, Ben, for being here. I really appreciate it and doing your thing. It's unfortunate, but you're working hard. I can see that. And this is a hard time of year for some people, isn't it? I posted that up on my Twitter. It's a good thing to be always aware of. It's hard. It's like I'll just touch on it for a second, but it's like, this time of year, I don't know, it brings out, it's a tough one for a lot of different people. I always remember my father saying, about Christmas and around the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, everything, it's like, he said, I think a lot of people just it's all they can do to just get through this time of year. And I was a kid, I was a teenager, and I didn't really know what he meant, because at that point I had a great home and family and everything was rosy and that kind of thing. And, my parents passed away a long time ago, at this point, and I know what he means now, I get that. It's a tough time of year for some people, and tougher for others, some than others, and so I have a pretty good awareness of what that's about now. And I think that it can be just I love seeing everybody's Christmas photos and their super happy times and stuff like that. And that's brilliant. But it's also hard, because it's like these days there's all you see folks' ideal life that they're putting up there on social media all the time and stuff. And I think it can get, the flip side of the coin is if you have a dark, if you're on the negative at all and you're depressed, it can be a difficult thing to see all that, I think. And maybe, I don't know, it's a tough, it's a balancing act, isn't it? So anyways, thanks, Ben, for doing a little moderation. And I don't know, I got a lot of sympathy for folks if they're going through a tough time. And I posted up, like I say, up on my Twitter, link to suicide prevention helpline and stuff like that. And it's a tough world we live in, confusing for a lot of folks, I think. So anyways, let's get back to guitar. Digital Blue says, so you aren't playing with Dave Lee Roth. Friedman gave hints and a lot of us thought it was you. No, I referred the fellow that's playing with Dave. They did call me though. And yeah, I didn't think I was the best guy for the position, and the guy that I referred is the best guy for the position, I think. So I don't know. It's not exactly what. And the other thing is, I think he's a tough guy to work for a little bit. So for a lot of stories and a lot of it's which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I think he's very intelligent, and he's a but I think I've heard a lot of stories over the years. I mean, going back to the 90s about folks that were playing with him and stuff like that. And it sort of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. I don't know that I have a lot of, I don't know that I have a lot of the, I'll tell you one. A drummer friend of mine in the 90s was filling in for whoever was playing drums with him around. This would be 93, 94, around that time. And the drummer got the call, hey, can you come in? Like somebody, I don't know I can't remember if it was Greg Bissonette or who it was, but my drummer friend got the call and said, yeah, I can do it, and it was just a fill-in thing where he'd be playing drums for a while, maybe just for rehearsals, I think, for something that was coming up. And this was when he was playing with Terry Kilgore in the band, who's a legendary Pasadena guy, and maybe, just post Jason Becker period. And anyway, my drummer friend Jimmy took the gig real seriously. It was last minute. He had like 48 hours to learn all this material, and he came in and he was getting set up, and it was at Dave's house, I think, in Pasadena, in the basement. There's somebody up in the top chat, and I don't want to miss it here while I I'll just go to that for a second. Chris says he played his first gig with his new PT-15 and cab last night. I had the best tone I've ever had in my life. That's awesome, dude. So stoked. Thank you so much for a great amp. Thanks for doing the top chat, Chris. I'm so happy that you tell us a little bit more about it, like in the regular chat, you know, about the headroom and stuff, because I'm interested if you went direct and things like that. So tell us a little more about it. I'm so stoked you're happy. Anyway, so Jimmy went in for the rehearsal and he set up his music stand and he had his, charts that he'd made because he charts things because it's like last minute and he wanted to do a good job. And Dave came in and met him, and everything. And then within seconds, he's like, "What's all this?" Like on the stand, And Jimmy's like, "Oh, these are my charts because I, just wrote everything down so that I don't forget anything." And Dave wiped all the charts off the stand. He said, "Do your homework at home." That always stuck with me. I always remember that because fuck that, It's like, I'm here to help, man. Like, and that was what he did, I don't, at this point in my life, maybe at one point I would have, like in my 20s and you're hungry and all that. And you're like, and at this point, I just don't care. I just don't need that. So maybe that was one of the reasons, but it's like, you go in there and I guess if you've really got it together, then maybe you don't get that kind of, but there's something with these personalities that it's a good thing to mention, a good thing to be aware of, where I feel like many times it's like they have to just, in order to be the top dog alpha, whatever, if it's, you might be the one that day that they focus in on or something like that. But even if there's really nothing wrong, they tend to focus in and then they're going to let it fly like on you just to let everybody in the room know who's boss, and I don't know. I kind of just don't care anymore about it. It's just music, man. It's not like we're saving lives in the operating room or something, So that kind of stuff, anyways. But I wish him well, and I hope that the show's good and fun and all that stuff, and then it goes good, The other thing is I know Ed. And I don't think I would want to, because he's been saying some things in the press recently and stuff, like, and I don't know, man. I don't, about like all that stuff about like, I wrote all the solos and all that. Could be saying some melodies and stuff and suggested things, but I'm not, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I love Eddie Van Halen, so it's like, I don't. It's like that's if I have a loyalty or whatever, it's there, So 100%. I am is logged in is in the top chat. Thanks for coming to Charlotte and hanging out after the clinic. Enjoy a coffee or beer on me. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. I had fun in Charlotte. That was a good week. It was a nice run. I've learned a lot about doing clinics over the last little while. And that week I went to a few different places, Charlotte and to In Stuff Music and to where else did I go on that trip? I'm forgetting right now. Oh, Baltimore. That was a great, 1 week, 7 days, something like that's a nice time to be gone doing clinics, do 2 or 3. It's pretty cool. Let's give Ben Coombs some props once again. Who's a GP guy? Get to says, "You're a good egg, Ben." I agree. He's a good man. Who else we got here? Let's get some more guitar questions going. That mid to low costing amp question was directed at the idea of using for gigging if you didn't have many options. This includes used amps. Man, I mean, honestly, it's like I had really good luck with a DSL 50 back in the day, and that's a pretty cheap amp. They're not great made, and they just sound pretty good. But that's a good amp. And there's a couple of mods that like Friedman, for instance, does to them. It improves them. It's a good amp and you can backline them. They're okay. The other one that I had really good luck with and I really actually like the tone of is just the 59 Bassman reissue. Maybe the standard one, nothing custom shop, but like a 410 59 Bassman with some nice pedals in front is a pretty good gig amp. And I sort of prefer that to the deluxe reverb way to go. You know, the 410's a little bigger sounding. It's got a little more headroom, and it sounds a little warmer, and it's a little more pedal friendly for whatever that design, for whatever reason. I found, you know, because I can remember when I was doing a gig a while ago, like it was 8 years ago or something, and I was backlining some combos and different amps to because I needed to rent things. So I thought, well, I'll get a. I remember now. I was playing with Colby Calais as pop artist, and I needed to know what I could plug my pedal board into. So I had an AC30 and deluxe, I think, and a Bassman, and I plugged into all of them. The Bassman was my favorite as far as like a pedal friendly pedal platform amplifier. So about 390 people online. Thanks for being here, folks. I appreciate it. Josh says speaker cab for PT15 other than my SIG cab, only on combo, so don't know what's out there. Wanted to hear about other options beside my signature. Well, it's wide open to, you know, your interpretation. I've played it through a bunch of different cabinets. I used it through an oval back. I think it's the the Bella cabinet, which has an oval open back and a V type speaker in it. That sounded good. I've used it through the big PT15 cab. That sounds good, like the 212 horizontal one. Marshall cabinets sound good. You know, different. It's real friendly, man. I mean, the tone controls are so. If you want something small, a V30, I think, is probably the best way to go. And maybe like the, you know, Cermix one. There's, you know, the Bogner one. It's going to fit perfectly on the Sir cabinet, though. That's the only thing. If you get a Sir 112 for a Badger, a V30 is hard to, you know, it's a good all-round, works decent clean, works decent overdriven. It's not my favorite speaker in the world, but it works good across the board, and it's high power handling. You're not going to blow it up and all that. So, you know, there's some options. Yeah. Gabrielle says, ciao, Pete. What type of cables do you use to connect your aux to the Apollo interface? So I have to use because of my aux and my interface, I have to use this TOS converter. So I got it sitting right here. Let me just look at it for a second. It's one I got. I'll take a picture of it and send it to you. Or, I mean, I'll take a picture of it and just show you. Just one sec here. Okay. One sec. I hate to even touch it because it actually is really finicky with the Toss Link style connector. Okay, here we go. I got a photo of it here for you. So Toss Link to coaxial, and just in the back there, you can see the coaxial connector kind of over on this side, like the RCA style or whatever coaxial connector. And then on the other side, you can see down here, the Toss Link cable coming out. Okay, so the Toss Link cable is going to the back of my my UA Apollo 8P, and then the other side is going to the aux. So I hope that makes sense. I bought this thing. You can see I don't know the brand, but I bought it on Amazon. And it was $15, and it's just a little coax to Toss Link, and it needs power. So I have it plugged in, and it converts the signal, works perfectly. I have no idea, to be honest. You'd have to ask UA, but why they use a different on the aux, why there's a different type of digital out than on the UA Apollo 8P. I have no idea. Maybe they've standardized it now. Maybe it's different now. I don't know. I really don't like the Toss Link style because it pulls out. It doesn't, you know, it's to me, it can get, if there's ever noise, which I get like some digital noise sometimes when I use the aux, I pull that cable in and out and it goes away. So it's the Toss Link style. It's just not, to me, the coaxial style or whatever it is, it looks like an RCA cable to me. That's real tight. Those work way better to me as far as like a professional connector. So I don't know why the Toss Link thing on the back. The one thing about the Apollo 8P, I don't know. Maybe they've changed it now. I'm not sure on newer UA interfaces. Okay. What else do we got here? When I use Floyd's, do I ever remove that strange string lock claw spring thing? Early Kramers didn't have it. String lock claw. You mean the thing that goes on the headstock? To push the strings down? Is that what you mean? I don't use that. Generally speaking, if you've got, tuners that are graduated height, you sure don't need it. I'm not sure if that's what you mean or not, though. I don't think I have one of those bars on anything that I have with the Floyd. String lock claw. I think that must be what you're talking about. I just settled on the Boss Katana Mark II 212. It's a lot of gear for the money, and it sounds great. A lot of people like the Katana amps. It's true. They seem to be really popular. Is an Explorer much different from a Les Paul tonally? Interested in an old Ibanez. Well, it depends what it's made out of. Those early Ibanezes were made out of sen or something, right? Which is like Eastern ash, I think. So that's going to be a very different sound. If you get a mahogany Explorer, to me, it's quite a dark guitar. I have one, and I need to change the pickups in it because I don't play it because it has kind of hot humbuckers in it. And to me, it's a bit muddy. It's a muddy guitar. So I want to put either some Thornbuckers, something that's got a lot more clarity in that guitar. A big slab of mahogany is going to be it's going to get pretty MIDI if there's no maple involved or anything. Yeah, especially a piece that big that's on an Explorer. To me, they're just kind of muddy sounding. It's my experience anyway. But the Sen, if it's an ash one, totally different animal. Who knows what the neck is made out of on those? It might be maple. Anybody know what they made the neck out of on a, Eddie Van Halen style old Ibanez Destroyer? I'm not sure. Chris Sargent Guitar says, I recommend the Signature Cab, the PT15, I think. It's a great sound. I'm glad you like it. Did I ever meet Colby's dad, Ken, says Dan. I have met Ken Calais, yeah. He's legendary for working with Fleetwood Mac and stuff. He's a nice guy. I had some good talks with him. I actually met Ken Calais at the White House. No shit. After doing the Easter egg roll concert we played there, and I remember talking to him on the the whatever they call it, the south lawn, I guess, or the back lawn or whatever of the White House, and having some good conversation about Fleetwood Mac and different things. But anyway, he's a very nice guy. Do I have any future gigs coming up in Boston? We'll be there in a couple weeks. I think you're asking somebody else, not me. Maybe. I don't. I'll be in the UK, but I don't think you were asking me. Yeah. How did I get my gig in Japan? Through friends, really. Word of mouth, and then also the internet helped because they went and watched me online once the recommendation was made from friend to a friend. And they said, yeah, this guy plays good rock guitar. We'll hire him. So that's how it happened. Played the House of Blues, says Andrew, in Boston with my PT15 Friday night. Was fantastic. I love to hear that. I'd love to hear that people are out using them for gigging, that it's working good. That's awesome. At the end of the day, that's what I want to make, is good tools for the working musician. Let's see. Stealth Parrot says, I read Don Felder's book. Don't know how biased it is, but it didn't paint Henley as a nice person. Those guys got a long history, and there's a lot of, there's lawsuits and all kinds of things that can color people's perspectives. I've heard nice things about Felder. I hear he's very nice. I've had one email conversation with him, and that was it. And Don Henley has always been, very nice to me and cordial and cool. And I try and stay out of as much drama as possible in my life and just do my job and stay out of it, Yeah. How do I record my bass for my tracks? UA, Logic plugins, or something else? That's a great question. That's from Dufuzz. I have my patch up right here in my Helix. I can see it, the 04A Fat Dirty Bass patch, which is Cali 400, like the Mesa Boogie style bass amp on channel 1, and I think I have just the stock 115 cab or something, and that's what I use a lot. And then I also use the UA, a couple different, either the SVT. I really like the basic SVT they came up with a while ago, like the 3-knob one. I think it's called the SVT Classic or something. It's like simpler than the there's only like 1 or 2 cab options, and it just sounds great. So I'll use that sometimes. And then I also use the B15 a lot, which I love. It's sublime. For anything that's not like super hard rock or needs a lot of distortion, I'll use that B15, the UA. So between the B15, the basic SVT, and then my Helix, those are my main bass things. And yeah. Daniel says, now I feel bad for the guy you recommended for the DLR gig. Well, you know what? Part of it was that he's so good at it that they'd be crazy to give him any guff. They should just, I think there's going to be no problems because he's born to do it. And it's just like, he's so good at it that there's not going to be any, it'd be nuts if there was ever a row or any reason that, because they won't find anybody on planet Earth that can do it better. I don't think so. That's the people I love. I love to refer people for gigs when I know they're the right person. There's something I really enjoy about hooking up people with people when I know it's going to work. I like to solve problems, and if there's an issue and I can help out, I don't like referring people when there's any kind of hint of like, I hope this works out, because they're sort of volatile because this person and that. If I think it's going to be a good fit, it's a really fun thing to refer somebody for a job and say, stop the presses, don't worry about it, I've got your person, just call them and trust me, and then talk to me in 2 weeks and tell me that it wasn't the right choice. That's what I love to, and then it's a good thing if you can hook up friends and then also hook up folks that need help. That always comes back to you later, both sides. If you were able to help out somehow. So anyways, Daniel D says, Don Henley, good boss, always good to me, man. I mean, it was 6 good years, and I played with him again recently, but a few months ago. But I really did it from 2009 to 2015, and we ended on a great note. I couldn't do it anymore because I was on tour in Japan, and he had to start rehearsing for a tour. And he said, Pete, I got to get somebody else for this because of, our scheduling conflicts and stuff, but we'll see what goes on next year. And, and he sent me a very nice, and I said, Don, no hard feelings, you're the best, and let's do some more work together down the road or whatever. And that's the way we left it. It was always good. So as long as you go in and do your job, that's, that sounds like every boss I've ever had, says Tom. Yeah, it can be a tough thing, when you've got a boss that drives a hard bargain and just playing the alpha card all the time, I guess. Watch Rhett Shull's video on amp shopping. Yeah, that's his Kurt. That could be a good suggestion for the person that was looking for a good amp under $2,000. He's probably got a good one. I've never done a video quite like that, but I did do a video with Chris Buck on tiny amps under $200, and I enjoyed doing that. So there's a video on my channel about little practice amps, but not one on like gigging amps. Yeah. Let's see here. Move down to the bottom of the chat. Have I ever checked out a Boss Next Tone, or do I stick to real gear? There's a Boss Next Tone in the other room. It sounds quite good. It's Holly Henderson's, and I'm keeping it here for her amp, and because she lives in the UK, but I store it for her while she's here. So I have played through that. It's a good little practice amp for sure. Yeah. Okay. Looking for more. For bass, says Rick K, use a good DI box. Yeah, agreed. That's the other, good DI is always a good way to go. The Nobles seems really popular these days. That's the hot one. The Nobles bass DI. All the LA guys have that on their pedal board. Somebody's talking about Rick Beato's ear training course. He just released his ear training course, and I got it on a pre-release sale. It's the best thing out there and a bargain for what you can get out of it. That sounds like a good thing. Everybody check out Rick's ear training. I remember doing an ear training or like a computer thing at MI. I used to go in the library and it would play intervals, and I would have to identify them. Sometimes play them together like a dyad. Sometimes it would play 3 notes together or 4 like a chord, and you'd have to identify them. And you could change the speed that it would play the intervals at if it wasn't a chord, if it was 2 separate intervals, and then you'd have to type in the answer. And that really helped me to hear intervals. What is my opinion on tone wood? Just finished a guitar course at Crimson in the UK and was surprised to hear they think wood doesn't really influence tone, only sustain for electrics, says Fully Den Tomb. I disagree with that. My opinion is always that I can hear the differences in wood. If you want to hear a video that even over YouTube, I think you'll hear the difference. I did a review, not a review, but it was for Vintage King a number of years ago, where I had 4 Sir guitars, 2 Teles and 2 Strats, 2 Tele types, 2 Strat types. The T types both had the same specs except ash body, maple neck and fingerboard, and then the other one was alder body, rosewood fingerboard, maple neck. Exact same pickups and everything, and I play both guitars and you can hear them. And then the 2 S's, same thing. Ash body, maple fingerboard, rosewood neck, and alder body was the other one. And you can listen to the difference between the guitars. And I think you can hear it plain as day in the video. I really do. So that would be the difference to me. And it's exactly what you would think it would be. The alder rosewood combination is a little, what I think of as warmer, with a little bit fuller tone through the mids, and maple board and ash body is a little bit more scooped sounding with a little bit snappier attack. And I think you'll hear it on the video if you listen. Check it out and let me know what you think. Somebody go watch it now and then come back. Oh, I gotta go soon. Jeez, I've been going over 2 hours. I gotta get to work. Okay, 5 more minutes and I'm out of here. Yeah. Do I have an agent or a manager, says Dan? No, not really. It's just me. It worked out for you, Pete. Your career went fine since 2015. Since leaving Dodds. Yeah, I mean, a lot of, I was in the midst of a 6 months of touring when that happened. So, and then the next year I went to France for 4 months or whatever. So yeah, it's continued, hopefully it keeps going. People don't forget about me. I'd like to keep getting hired. That would be good. Yeah. I think wood tone decays with higher output pickups, says ST. I know what you mean. It's like the higher output pickups, you hear less of the wood and more of the pickup. I would completely agree with that sentiment. It's change your neck and then you will know tone wood is a thing, says Kenny. Agreed. Yeah, if you go to a big fat maple neck or something from a thinner neck with a rosewood board, the tone changes. The mass of the headstock is a big thing, and the wood that it's made out of is absolutely true. It's definitely, I mean, it totally affects the sound of the guitar. Definitely. Yeah. Okay. What else? A couple last things here. Thoughts on Warmoth replacement necks? I've had pretty good luck with them. Let's see. Metalhead Hippie says you just hit 200 subscribers. Let's congratulate him. Good job. Can you recommend how you felt at 200? I don't remember exactly the different. I can't really remember like where I was at, like with the YouTube subscribers. I remember when I started to pay attention to it, I guess, and be like, this is like actually becoming kind of a thing. I remember, but I didn't really pay much attention to it before that. I just sort of tried to put out videos and just whoever watched them. But YouTube was different then. It was all like, wasn't such a thing that people were trying to do. It was just like, I don't know, I got this YouTube channel. It kind of felt like having a Facebook page that where some people look at it every now and then. I don't know. We didn't take it very seriously, I guess is what it was. People only started taking it seriously when it was like, oh, all of a sudden there's monetization and, people like making their careers and becoming YouTube star. Like that was never a thing, like I don't even remember in 2008, 2009, 2000. It was really when I tell this story in my clinic, but when I went to Portugal and some guy goes, you taught me how to play Eruption, walking down the street, and saw me. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. I just dropped a Christmas card. That tripped me out. I was like, people actually watch these videos that I put up there every now and then. I just didn't even occur to me, and I'd already had the channel for 4 years at that point. So, have I checked out the Comfortably Numb solo interpretation? I have not. No, I have not. Check out Carmine Street guitars. Those 150-year-old wood guitars really sing. Oh yeah, Stealth Parrot says it's kind of a neat documentary on Netflix if you want to watch a good documentary about guitar building and kind of a cool music store in New York. I enjoyed it. I watched that on a plane. Carmine Street guitars. It was very enjoyable. The guy's a unique character, you know, making his guitars in New York. I really liked it. And as a matter of fact, you just reminded me, and I kind of want to go by there because I'm going to go to New York in about a week from now. I go to New York, which brings me to actually, I will probably need to change the time for next week, but I might just sign on for half an hour or while I'm sitting at a gate at the airport next week because I got to go to New York for a few days. So and my flight will probably, I might see if I can get a different flight, but for now I think the flight I'm getting is just after noon, so that'll mean that'll kind of screw up my timer. Maybe not. Maybe I can do 11 to 11:45 or something like that next Sunday and just do it in the airport lounge waiting to take off on the iPhone. It might be kind of fun to do it that way anyway. Let's see. My knees hurt said, I just watched a super old video of yours. It was pretty fun. Thanks, my knees hurt. Don't stop watching. Jim says he's got a 77 Rick 4001, want a second bass that is different, but no P bass. Any suggestions? You want a polar opposite, a Hofner, a Beetle bass. Bong, 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 as opposed to grrr. That's my Rick versus Hofner. Grrr, bong. That would be a good suggestion, I think. Or if you want to bet like the Guild, that's like the big hollow body Guild with the big fat pickup on it, that would be something really different. Love my Warwick too, streamer. It's a different thing. Not gonna. I was gonna say it's like the Rick isn't the same thing, but it's actually probably more similar than a P bass. Now that I think about it. Yeah. About the Floyd, I mean the claw thing under the fine tuners. It doesn't seem to have any point in being there. Oh, says Rory Fan. I've never thought about taking that off. He asked a question earlier about taking off that claw thing under the fine tuners. It puts pressure on the Allen screws, doesn't it? And holds them kind of like tight, the saddle. I don't know. I've never tried taking one off. I don't know if it would affect things that much or not. I assume it's got to be there for a reason. Be a good question for John if he was still here, but he's probably bailed long ago. Vincent says, if you're in New York City and have time for lunch next week, you must let me know. I promise not to steer you wrong. I'll keep that in mind, Vincent. I'll be pretty busy while I'm there working. I got some work to do for a few days, but we will see. I'm gonna be running. It's going to be an intense couple of days of running around, helping out a friend, doing something. My next live chat won't be till next year. That's true. So happy New Year, dude, says Richard. And thanks for all your advice. Happy New Year to everybody out there. That's right. Have a safe New Year's Eve and a safe week. I hope that you guys, ring in the new year, new decade. It's crazy, right? When you think about that. 1979 to 1980, everything changed. 1989, 1990, the 90s sure were different. 99 to 2000, only in retrospect do we look at it and go, what's different? 2009 to 2010, what happened in the last 10 years? Boy, shit's gotten weird. What's going to happen in the next 10 years? Oh my God. It's crazy. Oh boy. Whew. Roller coaster ride. You make my classical guitar practice routine so much more enjoyable, Pete, says Gabrielle. Hey, thank you. Thanks for... how do you concentrate, though, with me whining away on here? Anybody ever try a Fender Bass 6 or Schecter Hellcat 6? Worth it for the tone. Think about, I love those things, but, think about back in the saddle again. That's that sound, That is that sound. Oh, yeah. You're just reminding I have to learn Sweet Emotion this week. That's a song I gotta learn. I've got a talk box sitting in the other room. I've never played it. I'm gonna give it a try. String tension does the pressure needed so the claw doesn't do anything, says Rory Fan. Yeah, take it off. I've never tried taking it off. Okay, I gotta split, guys. Time to get to work. I'm procrastinating. It's part of why I'm going over here. I gotta get some music learned though. Time to fire up the pedal board, the PT15, and make some noise. So if I don't do the live stream next week, I'll let you know an alternate time. Would probably be like Monday or something, but I don't know. I'll think about it. But I might just try and sign on and do it from the, like I say, for half an hour, 45 minutes. Probably be right before I start boarding. If I could get to the gate by 11 a.m. and start, and then like my plane doesn't leave till 12:15, so that means I won't board till 11:45. Probably get in a 45-minute live stream from LAX. So why not? So yeah, let's just say same time, same place next week. And I'll put in the headphones and see you guys while I'm on my way on a long journey. Okay. You guys rule. Thanks. Happy New Year. Happy holidays to all of you. Thanks again, Ben Coombs. Really appreciate it. Everybody, Ben's got his stream tonight. Ben, let us know what time tonight in the chat there, if you can type so everybody can join in. And I really appreciate your moderation. In moderation, everybody, moderation is the key this week, and Ben is the king of moderation. Enjoy your New Year's. I think I'm losing it. Rock on, over and out. Ben says 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right on, Ben. Everybody check out Ben's stream tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rock on. See y'all.